All right. In the absence of an existing chairman, I am going to pretend I'm the existing chairman since the new board has been elected. And I would like to call the meeting to order. And let's start with some introductions here. Jake, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself? We have 4 new board members, of whom, let's see, 1 is here now. And we're looking for the rest.
Absolutely. So I'm Jake Rogers, Lawrence resident, born and raised. Went to Free State and kind of grew up around Lawrence Airport a little bit. My dad has a plane out there, so I've been flying more frequently out of the Lawrence Airport, but I also fly for the Kansas Air National Guard, the KC-135's out there, and potentially looking into buying a plane of my own, so hoping to be more active out at the Lawrence Airport.
Thank you, Jake. Mr. Jim Laster?
Jim Laster, this is my technically second stint, I guess. I don't know the right word. On the board. Originally, all my flight training came out of Denver, Colorado in the 90s, and then moved to Lawrence 15 years ago, and been a local resident here for that long and work in the aviation industry, and excited to be here.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Sarah Thompson?
Hi, I'm Sarah Thompson. I've lived in Lawrence just 5.5 years. I rent a Cessna 172 out at Hattrick Aviation Services, and I've been flying actively since the year 2000. I have an instrument rating, and I'm also an instrument ground instructor. And that's it for now. Happy to be here.
And Sarah's on her first term on the board, and we'll hope she'll be around for more than one. I'm Clancy Maloney. I've been on the board now for, I believe it is 4 years. And I started flying more than 40 years ago in Colorado Springs and hold an airline transport rating, both single and multi-engine land. And have flown charter and Forest Service firefighting for a number of years. And I have a Gold Seal instructor certificate. So I've been around aviation and airports for a very long time. And I'm happy to be back on the board again, be reappointed by the city of Lawrence. So there we go. Okay, Scott, where do you want to start on this?
Well, we've got Mr. Renz online.
Oh, yeah, Ron, do tell.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm a 40-plus year resident in Lawrence. I moved to Lawrence to come here in 1979 and sort of never left. I have been flying for 50 years as of Monday.
That's awesome.
Hey!
So, long time in airplanes, and I own 2 airplanes. I own a Mitsubishi MU-2, or my company does, and also own a which we use for transportation. And I'm part of Mitsubishi's product support team for the Mitsubishi airplane, and I have literally flown MU-2s all over the world, and ferried them across the North Atlantic and all kinds of stuff, and just enjoy that. I'm an engineering test pilot, is kind of what I do for a living. Been a long-term tenant out at the airport for about 35 years. Also on a Christian Eagle aerobatic biplane. So, and I've been coming to the Aviation Advisory Board. I've missed very few meetings in the last 40-plus years.
And you don't have any excuses
Even though I've never
either.
been on the board until now.
And no more excuses, Ron. And our last member just arrived, Carrie Gooch. Please tell us about your aviation experience and your time on the board.
Hey, everybody. I'm Kerry Gooch. I'm, I guess, no longer one of the newest members of the board, I guess.
That's right.
I think I've been on the board technically 1.5 years, or almost 2 years at this point. I come from an aviation family, grew up around aviation, born and raised down in Wichita, Kansas. My grandfather ran an FBO down there. Was a Tuskegee Airman before that. My dad flew in the military. So in my family, you had to get your pilot's license before you got your driver's license. So been flying almost my entire life in some way or the other. Only for fun, though. But I now own a VTEL Bonanza that I keep out at the airport down here. And so just get to take that around for fun whenever I get a chance.
And you also run the Red Tail Academy.
Yeah, started a nonprofit with a couple buddies of mine a few years ago called Red Tail Academy. It's a nonprofit that's just about teaching inner city kids how to get into the world of aviation. So we started that program in 2020 it was, and we've helped over 20 kids get their private pilot's license so far. So,
All right.
yeah.
Thank you. Okay, Scott, now it's your turn.
Yeah, I just have some introductory remarks. Good evening. My name is Scott Wagner. I'm the Lawrence Regional Airport Manager, and welcome to the October 2nd meeting of the Lawrence Aviation Advisory Board. Just have a few housekeeping items for this hybrid meeting. City staff and aviation board members will be in person at City Hall. Virtual participation is allowed for any participant, including staff and the public. Live public comment can be made in person or at City Hall or virtually using the Zoom link. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast on the city's YouTube channel and cable channel 25. If you're on Zoom, please remember to mute yourself during the meeting when you are not speaking. The chat function for this public meeting is disabled and all the chats will go directly to me. When the chair calls for in-person public comment, individuals should indicate if they wish to speak and staff will direct you to the podium. Individuals participating via Zoom should use the raise hand function to indicate that they wish to speak. And please state your name before speaking, and comments will be limited to 3 minutes. The city reserves the right to mute people or turn off individual videos off to minimize distractions during the meeting. And now I'll turn the meeting back to our, acting chair, Clancy Maloney.
Thank you. Okay, let's see. 1, 2, 3 of us were at the meeting in August from the old board. I would like a motion from one of those people, please, to accept the minutes from the August 28th meeting. Jim or Carrie?
Yeah,
Jim?
I'll make the motion to
Carrie.
approve the board.
Okay,
minutes
Jim, will
from
you
the-
second?
I second.
Okay, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, Ron. And we'll go on to, public comment. Is there anybody who wishes to come forward? Okay. We'll keep going on to agenda items. Oops, I just passed it. Item number 1 is election of officers for the 2024 Aviation Advisory Board. Nominations are now open.
Madam Chair?
Sarah?
I would like to nominate you, Linda Clancy Maloney, for chair for the current term of the Aviation Advisory Board.
Thank you. Any other nominations? Okay, I accept your nomination.
Do we need a second?
I will second that. I think you need a second for that. so
Okay,
I'll do
thank you,
that
Ron.
as Well,
Anybody else? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. And we're now open for nominations for vice chairman. Nominations are now open.
I would like to nominate Jim Laster.
Oh, no.
Okay,
I forgot. I'd like to nominate Carrie for vice president, or vice chair.
okay. Anybody else? All right, could I have seconds on those?
Yeah, I second Carrie.
Okay,
I'd like to second Carrie also.
okay.
All right.
I guess,
Congratulations, buddy.
I guess the next thing to do is ask who's in favor of Carrie. Okay, Jim, Jacob, Sarah,
Aye.
okay, and Ron?
Oh, man.
Please. Okay, that's 4. The motion is carried. Carrie, congratulations.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
All right, I think, Melissa, are you the one who's going to give us this next presentation? Okay, Melissa Sieben?
Your call. Yeah, whatever you're going to do. You guys, I guess you can pull it up from the podium.
Yeah, I should be able to. And I'm going to bring this up so it's at my
Been here before.
Yeah, I've been here a few times.
Indeed.
I don't speak very often, though, guys. Okay. Let's see here. Is it attached to the agenda?
It is, yes.
Okay. There we are. All right, guys, okay.
You might want to share it on Zoom.
Okay. Sounds like a good plan. And it's been a long time since I've been in Zoom. We use Teams here, guys, so just bear with me for a moment.
It's the same thing.
Yeah, I know, except for it's not showing me my document that's open. Here we go. I should be able to get over to it this way. Not there. Let's try. Here we go. All right, everybody seeing that now?
Got it.
All right.
Ron, have
and-
you got it? Can you see it?
And I'll make it a little bigger, I think, if I can find my... Control L. Now I'm learning something new today.
Ron, can you see that?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good, thank you.
All right. Well, welcome, everyone. I'm Melissa Sieben. Sorry I wasn't here a little bit earlier. I'm balancing a few things, including a mother-in-law who's not doing well today. But I am the Director of Municipal Services and Operations, for those of you who haven't met me before. And Scott and I work together, as well as the other ladies that are sitting up here in the front, Kathleen and Christy. I'm like losing my mind today. Christy? Why am I thinking your name is something else all of a sudden? My mind is losing me. Anyway, they work with me as well. And I am actually the Connected Cities champion for the city of Lawrence. And I don't know how far they went into strategic planning with the board in the past. I'm pretty sure because we were outside of the strategic plan, there wasn't a lot of conversation around it. But this falls in the city's new structure under Connected City, which is basically our plan to connect all of our cities, like infrastructure assets, and make them the best they can be. So, just a quick overview of what I'm going to be discussing tonight. So, what is a connected city? That's a fun one I had to figure out pretty fast starting here a couple years ago. Our strategic progress indicators, which we have some new proposed ones. And then the last part of my presentation tonight is kind of the board's role, which I believe you've been through with the city clerk, city manager, and a few others. So connected city by definition is a little confusing, so I'll go ahead and read through it. But the City of Lawrence has well-maintained, functional, efficient infrastructure, facilities, and other assets. And these are aspirational statements as you see all the work we're doing. So I think you understand that we're working towards that. Connectivity supports accessible, sustainable methods for safely moving people and information throughout the community and the region, because we do work with the Douglas County MPO, which also sits within the Municipal Services and Operations Department. Investment in these assets reflects the city's commitment to contribute to the well-being of all people. So that is what we live every day. So I'm not going to read all of these because I know we all have better things to do this evening, but this is our progress indicators as they currently stand. What you will notice here and see here, there's nothing highlighted that is specific to the airport. Staff has been going through a set of revisions and has some new indicators, which you'll see here, and you can look at this presentation on your own later to read all of them. Many of them are the same, but then others are newer or more emphasized, meaning that we broke them out from like a combined, like we threw a whole bunch of stuff in the sink and said, oh, this is the value output. And we wanted to be more transparent with the public about progress we're making. And to do so, things like the water asset condition was buried within something that says we have good water, wastewater infrastructure. So we're trying to really make that a little more clear. But what you'll see on this next page is we're proposing to add airport operating ratio. So for those of you who have been on the board before, and you may have an understanding of this if you haven't, our airport does not operate above positive revenue level. We are actually contingent on money from the city's property tax and sales taxes in the general fund. And that's something that we will be working together to remedy over the coming year. It's my top priority right now in the work we're doing. So this is a proposal we have, is that we look at the airport's operating ratio and to get that into the black and out of the red. So why are we here tonight? Well, there was a new ordinance passed, and so we reformed the groups. And just sort of what I want to point out down here, which is part of this Ordinance 9984, is that the Aviation Advisory Board is going to be considering developing with us policy advice to give to the governing body. And we have a lot of critical work to do in this area. So pretty excited to have the group of folks back that I know and the new folks. I can't wait to start working with you on all of this. So then here, ooh, this doesn't show up nearly as nice as it did on my monitor downstairs. Clearly, I needed someone to look at this. But the other important thing to note is we'll have a heavy emphasis on trying to maintain our focus on the strategic plan as it relates to the work of Connected City with the Aviation Advisory Board. So that means we're going to be looking to have really good assets that are, usable by all those folks who want to, work in and around our airport, and that it's a value add to the residents and businesses in our community. So basically, what we won't be able to do is tell the governing body how to do their business, which I'm sure they covered in your training. And we also, we won't be communicating anything other than basic policy recommendations up to the governing body. So it's a little bit different than how it may have been set up in the past. And so we'll be working together, especially with folks that have been doing this for a while, to try and navigate the new set of governing documents that we have. So it looks like you've just elected a chair, Clancy. Thank you for coming back. And she will be the facilitator under the new rules and help us maintain decorum. This group doesn't seem to get wildly out of control, so it's this is a nice, fun place to be. And we do work with her directly to put together our board agenda items. So Scott, as our airport manager and staff liaison for this board, will be working directly with her as he has in the past, and trying to keep her up to date. You all have the beauty of being here when we meet, and being prepared to participate, of course, and then let Scott know if you're going to have any absences. So again, I'm just recovering this to start staging the ground since it's new. And then Scott, of course, will serve as your primary contact. Of course, I'm there as a backup, as are the rest of our team. And we'll be trying to make sure that we bring you the most important and relevant stuff to address the needs of the airport and meet the strategic plan goals under the Connected City outcome. And I've just highlighted a few things here. This again comes out of, I believe it's the ordinance or the resolution. I'm not sure which one that established the new boards, but we certainly encourage you who have been on the board in the past to share your experience and your understanding, your knowledge with the new folks on the board. And if someone was on the board in the past and is bringing back experience, then that's great as well. The other thing is, if there is any disagreements, certainly let Scott know, and if not, you can come to me. And then, of course, in the governing body documents, it says the city manager. So, should that arise, I just want to let you know the way that you can communicate with us. One other thing I wanted to note, because this gets a little more complicated with some of these boards that are a little more specific, but the city's ethics policy on offering testimony as it pertains to federal or state legislative matters. So if you have a role that you do in your own job that may cause you to do that, as long as you've delineated that you're not doing it as someone with the Aviation Advisory Board, I think that's really critical. Or if you have questions, certainly get with our city attorney on that. But those things will happen, and people will approach you because of your specialized role here in the community. And the other nice thing is you don't have to draft ordinances or resolutions. Scott and I will work with the city's attorney's office on anything that we have that might turn into that. In the past, I believe there were some folks that were doing that, and that's certainly not anything that we expect our advisory board members to do, but I know that folks get excited, so just thought I'd let you know that. And then if you have any conflicts of interest, let us know, and we'll work with the chair to have maybe you were recused on a vote on an item or whatever, but those do come up from time to time. And then the last thing that is always one that sometimes folks don't understand, but once a decision is made, this is the staff will act on the majority of the advisory board as the body, not on individuals. So just understand that's how we operate. And that's all I have. This is the first time I've done with these. I've got Connected City coming up, so you guys are my test case. So if none of that made any sense, please let me know. And if you have any questions, I will be here, or we'll take questions now.
For the airport operating ratio,
Yeah.
how far are we from going black out of the red? Is it close, or is it going to take a significant lift, or?
It's going to take a lift. But we've got a team ready to help.
Okay. And resources from the city are willing to help us get to that point where we might ask for additional resources, such as an airport manager and sewage?
There are a lot of things on the table, and we're currently developing a series of items to bring back to you guys over the next year.
That is awesome.
Yes.
Fabulous. Okay. Carrie, Sarah,
No, that was just
Jake?
great questions.
Ron?
Yeah, I've got thank you, Melissa. That was very, very helpful. Just an overall comment on the airport operating cost. We got to remember, and I'm sure that this will be in your consideration, because I know Scott is well aware of that. Airports are like roads. Roads don't bring direct revenue. They're a cost item, but they bring people and businesses to the city, and airports are in that same realm. They're a little bit different because, yes, there is some revenue potential with airports, but I've been around airports literally all over the world and all over the U.S. and the country. To expect an airport of this size to operate in the black is unrealistic.
Yeah, and we understand that it's a goal out there to look at, but what that looks like, we'll be working with you all on that kind of policy. And then, of course, with the city manager and his finance director and budget manager as we move forward. But the general fund is subsidizing currently the airport at quite a great extent, about $500,000 a year.
Yeah, understand that. I just wanted to make sure that it sounds like you're considering, just wanted to make sure that that's on there and that we are realizing that that's what it is, because the city subsidizes roads as well to a lot bigger sum than $500,000 a year.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, great. Thank you, Madam.
you.
I guess the next item is an update from Garver on the master plan. Scott, are you going to do that?
Yes, I've got a couple updates that Garver had provided. They don't have anybody in person here tonight, but for those of you that are attending next week's Kansas Association of Airports meeting, John Rosses from Garver will be at that conference, and he's actually going to be presenting on the importance of keeping your master plan updated. So we'll be able to catch him in person next week. But he did provide just a brief update on where the master plan process sits. As most of you know, we kind of had a kickoff meeting in January out at the airport. And he's provided an update on some of the elements that have been completed. So the inventory of airport assets and planes based at our airport, that's complete. I think it was in June, we went over the activity forecast with FAA Central Region staff. So that's why he has pending FAA approval on there. And actually, FAA just a couple weeks ago issued some new guidance on activity forecasts at airports, and it had some specific language for really GA airports like ourselves in that document. So that might be something we catch John Rosses at next week to pick his brain a little bit on how some of those activity forecasts will go in terms of feedback from FAA. Work that's underway. The facility chapter has been presented to staff. I believe I was able to catch John at the Four States conference in Kansas City in August, and he went through that particular chapter with me, and that's just kind of a nuts and bolts chapter on the airport itself. If you notice, he doesn't say what elements 5, 6, or 7 are in his report, so I will get with him because I don't know what those elements are, so I will check in with him on that and report back to the board. Aeronautical survey work, there was a separate subcontractor that did LiDAR surveying out at the airport earlier this year, and that includes obstruction data from the airport, so that is in process. Some of you as stakeholders through the master plan process have seen some of the draft chapters. The inventory chapter, I believe he's pushed out. I believe he pushed out the aviation forecast chapter as well.
I don't think so.
Probably another thing to discuss would be we lost a couple of stakeholder members with just kind of the shakeup of the advisory body. David Habe was a KU representative, and so we really need to have someone from KU be a part of this master plan process. So I can think of a couple names of KU representatives to reach out to. One of those would be Patricia Bergman. She's kind of an economic development vice provost, I think is her title at KU, but she's been involved with airport activities. There's a couple of aerospace engineers that work out at the airport as well. But if the board has a specific name of someone at KU you would like to recommend to me, I will reach out and make sure we've got KU involvement in the master plan process. Tiffany Hall was also part of the stakeholder group. So as Clancy and I talked about before the meeting started, I think any future meetings of the stakeholders with the master plan process, we should just invite the entire aviation board to attend those so that everyone's up to speed with what's going on with the master planning process. The next deliverable he points out is the facility chapter, so I'm sure he'll be pushing that out to the stakeholder group as well when that chapter is ready to be distributed. The time frame for this is, again, most master plans take anywhere from a year to 18 months to turn into a deliverable, and Garver is on track to complete that. But again, I plan to touch base with John Ross this next week while he's attending the KAA meetings, and I'll be happy to answer any questions as I can or take questions back to Garver.
Okay. Thank you. And then the next one is on the Taxiway C rehabilitation and the Apron.
Yeah, that project is coming along. If you recall, we were awarded Kansas Airport Improvement Grant for Taxiway C this spring, and that's the little connector taxiway off of the west side of the Apron to runway 119. About this time last year, when we had the T-hanger taxi lanes under reconstruction, I noticed that Taxiway C was in need of work, so we applied for a grant last fall during the KIP funding cycle. Thankfully, the state awarded us, I think, $38,000 for the design of that improvement, and I believe 200 and some plus $1,000 for construction, and we think that's going to be enough to complete that project, which will be added to the Apron project. So, the timing of that grant from the state of Kansas was great, and we were out there in August taking some core samples from that taxiway just to make sure that it was just needing a mill and overlay versus a complete reconstruction. And Brett reported back a little bit of detail from that work that took place, and there's a nice asphalt base between 9 and 11 inches was discovered with that core sample work, and then it's got a very deep subbase, so that was good news on that front. We've had a couple different meetings on the Apron project with FAA over the summer. I didn't post this with the agenda, but on June 24th, we had a pre-design meeting with the FAA Central Region Planner, Russ Owen, that's assigned to the state of Kansas, and Andrea McKinney, the FAA Central Region Engineer that's assigned to this project, where we went over more details of the project and the funding that we thought we would need from the federal level to get this project through to completion. If you may recall, we've got 2 state of Kansas grants, KIP grants on the Apron. One was for design and another $800,000 was for construction. However, that's not going to be enough. The engineer's estimate, depending on, if we award the alternate bids that are in that project, is $1.9 million. So we're looking at, needing anywhere from $800,000 to, $930,000 from the federal government to complete this project. We've been repeatedly asking them if we are on track to receive those, and then we finally got confirmation of that on September 19th. So they are programming those funds for that project in federal fiscal year 2025, which started yesterday. Next deliverable will be a 90% design set. So at our next meeting, we'll go over that document. And the final update I guess I have on you for that project is, I believe, tomorrow. City staff has a meeting set up with some folks that are helping the state of Kansas with the Kansas Infrastructure Hub. And this was a pot of funds that the legislature set up 2 years ago to help Kansas communities tap into the bipartisan infrastructure law. They set aside roughly $200 million to allow communities to make their local matches with bill-funded programs. And this Apron project will have a significant hunk of bill funds tied to it. So we want to make sure that we tap into those local matches where we can, so that we're not asking the city commission for those local dollars. So last Friday, myself and another MSO analyst had a meeting with a state of Kansas contractor that's helping educate Kansas communities about the Build Kansas Fund. And we got a meeting set up tomorrow. So I'm optimistic we'll be able to utilize that source of revenue for at least a part of our local match with that project. I think that's about all the updates I had on that one.
Well,
Happy to answer questions.
The only thing I want to point out, Scott, is our goal, I believe, tell me if I'm wrong on the CIP projections, are to have the ramp done sometime in this fiscal year. Is that correct?
Well, sometime in the current federal fiscal year.
Yes.
Projections would be, so FAA only awards grants based on as-bid costs. So our plan right now would be to complete design by the next time we meet in December. We'll have probably 100% plans completed, probably let the project for bid in early February, March of 2025. We would expect FAA to get us the grant agreements in roughly April, May-ish, and be able to send a notice to proceed sometime, next summer for that project. That's kind of the optimistic timeline, I think, at this point. We can ask Brett Holt at our next meeting to kind of give us a firmer timeline on that project.
Okay, great. I just wanted some clarification for myself on that.
Yes.
Thanks.
That's the goal, and the goal is to get this project done before Kansas City, of course, hosts the World Cup games in 2026. We are optimistic that our city, Lawrence, will maybe host a World Cup team as being a site for a base camp, and we would, if that happens, we would expect some increased traffic at our airport with that project. I see Ron has his hand raised, Clancy.
Okay, Ron?
Yeah, just a question on that Taxiway C project. I assume is that a 95.5% or is it a 80 or 90-10% city participation?
That's a great question, because we were reviewing all the different KIP grant agreements and they tweak them all. So for design, Ron, it's a 95-5 split. For construction, it's a 90-10 split.
I assume if we get the FAA grant, we've got the budgetary funds from the city to match that.
I have posted that document to my airport manager's report, Ron, and yes, we have those CIP program funds were adopted in the city's 2025 to 29 CIP, so you can read it for yourself online.
Excellent. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, great. Well, Scott, now you have to give your report.
All right, I might take a sip of water. Well, I won't go through all the details, but I threw a few more things in there since I didn't present a report at our brief August meeting. We've had a couple really cool tours over the last few months out at the airport, and I certainly want to thank the folks from Hetrick and Eurotech for offering opportunities to showcase our airport. Had a really neat group of senior citizens, not seniors in high school, come out and tour the airport in June. A very large group of folks that gave a little presentation in the terminal on the airport, and they, of course, saw the terminal renovations, and we went over to and toured the Hetrick maintenance hangar, and then onto the Eurotech operation. So that was a nice group to showcase the airport too. Had a group of young people approach us from the Stepping Stone summer program, and we gave a similar tour to those kids on July 10th. On August 29th, we had a nice tour from Sarah Farrell. She is a Washington, D.C. staffer of Congressman Tracy Mann of the 1st District, who represents us in Congress. She and I had tried to connect several different times, and she was finally able to make it happen. So again, we talked about in the terminal conference room, kind of all the projects we have in play out at the airport. She was able to see of course, the renovations to the terminal. We toured the new Hetrick hangar, and then again, we toured Eurotech operations and also Lifestar during that tour. She was super thankful to get the time with us, and she is really connected to Congressman Mann's aviation interest and efforts in Washington, D.C. Congressman Mann sits on the House Transportation Committee. So, that's a key position for funding of airports. Those committees help pass the FAA reauthorization that went through Congress this year. And, it's not just enough to pass that reauthorization act, which was huge for airports, but then they have to actually pass appropriations every year. And so those funding bills also go through Tracy Mann's office and Transportation Committee as well. And later on the agenda, and I think I've talked to several of you about it, but Congressman Mann this coming Monday is organizing a statewide aviation summit. He like Senator Moran has an interest in promoting aviation in Kansas. So I think it was super important that we hosted her for that tour and spread the word on all the good things happening at Lawrence Regional. The next item is the Kansas Association of Airports Conference, KAA, and that's happening next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in Topeka. And I know Clancy is planning on attending along with Carrie Gooch. We've got a couple staff members. Aaron Parker, who is the city engineer that's really working with me on a couple of the airport projects he's planning to attend. Ellie Mullins is one of the Lawrence Douglas County planning staff that's really kind of being trained by Sandy Day on airport items. She's planning to attend as well. It's going to be a good conference again, and I've laid copies of the agenda on the DS for you guys. So if you haven't told me you could attend, registration is still open, and we could certainly get you registered if you don't have plans to be there, or if you could only just make it for a day or half a day, that would be fine as well. So just let me know. The Four States Conference, Jim Laster attended that one, and that's always a super opportunity to meet with FAA staff from the Central Region, as well as hear a lot of really good presentations, and I thought this year's conference was better than in the past. It comprises members of the 4 states of the Kansas City FAA region, which is Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, and Iowa. So a lot of good airport managers, consultants, and presentations are always had at that one. And I don't know, I might let Jim, if you've got anything you want to share on that.
I would strongly suggest anyone that hasn't been there to go. I think my two big takeaways were a better understanding of why things take so long. I got to sit into some of the FAA speaks, and they even joke about how long things take, and I'm like, well, they get it. They know the process. They know the speed of government. But it was interesting to kind of understand and get the feel of they're not just sitting waiting around. They have a lot of the process they have to go through, and you kind of understand better what that is. The second thing is there's a lot of airports that are bigger and smaller than us that have similar issues. And you have meals or time with other airports, and it's super interesting to hear a airport similar to our size that's in Iowa has similar issues and then sometimes very different. So but that part was probably my favorite part to that. And yeah, I would strongly suggest anyone going next year.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, I'm thankful you were able to attend. And for me, professionally, that's always the importance at conferences like these, just meeting other airport managers. Sometimes it's design consultants that, we, of course, are using Garver a lot here, but it's also good to meet other engineering firms that are working on other projects to talk to them about how those things are going, as well as consultants from various vendors in the field. So, an example of that was at the Wichita conference of the South Central chapter of AAAE that I attended back in May. I met one of the vendors from a company called SSI that was offering a concrete pavement patching solution. Actually had a good conversation with him. I told him that our cross-run runway was concrete and in need of repair. He offered to come to our airport. And so back in July, I think it was, we did a little test patch of this material out on runway 119, and that's just an example of the benefit of attending conferences like this. I'll kind of quickly go through the rest of these items. They're all posted for your reading pleasure. The monument sign, as you probably have seen, is up and running and electrified, so I posted a sign online of the sign at night, which is pretty cool because it's a backlit sign. The airport monitoring system is the ADSB system that I've talked about in the past. I'll have more information to present probably after our KA meetings, because the gentleman that's helping us with that system is also going to be in Topeka next week. His name is Eric Jacobs. But if you want to look at the data, that is a live link to our data system out at our airport. KDOT cost share grant, I was telling Lloyd about this morning. With the terminal project that we did a couple years ago, we also designed improvements for Airport Road and the long-term parking area. So we've had that design on the shelf since then in search of a funding stream to get that project done. I've applied for a couple different rounds of the airport terminal program, the federal program where we got the terminal improvement grant from. Haven't got an award on that end yet, but KDOT had a particular program called cost share that this project is eligible for, so we applied for that in September, and award announcements should come out in November on that. I also applied for the fourth round of funding under the federal airport terminal program, so cautiously optimistic about that one, but I'll have more hopefully to talk about at our December meeting on that. The KIP program, traditionally applications are due in October. With the new aviation director, he's kind of changed the time frame up a little bit, which I think is a little more helpful in terms of the city's budget cycle. Applications will be due at the end of January. They hope to get award announcements out in February and in March of this year. So we'll have kind of a list of projects that we are considering applying for at your December meeting. And, we've had a lot of good feedback from the capital improvement subcommittee of this group already. So I think we'll be in good shape in terms of what we want to go after for the next round of KIP funds. And again, there's a larger pot of funds now available in the KIP program. That legislation was passed this year that tripled the amount of funding from $5 million to $15 million annually for Kansas airports. I've posted quite a few things just from AAAE committees that I'm involved in, and some of the presentations I thought interesting, so those are out there online. Melissa and I was able to go to the General Aviation Conference in early August out in Renton. Probably the most helpful thing out of that conference was the compliance workshop that we attended a couple days after that conference that was put on by the Aviation Management Consulting Group. So that was super helpful, and we've got a lot of follow-up from that particular conference to work on as well. A couple weeks ago, I was out at the National Airports Conference and also attended some really good training by a company called Airport Business Solutions. It was more on the business management side of airport management, and that was very worthwhile as well. Last few items, the United Way event. We've been talking to them a couple years since we had that last event out at the Eurotech hangar. This year's event was held out at the newest Hetrick hangar, and I was telling Lloyd this morning, I think he was just getting back into the country, but it was a nice evening, nice event, well attended, and just a super positive event to get people out to the airport that normally wouldn't have a reason to come. And I think it was very successful, and I know the United Way folks were happy with how the event went as well. Finally, a couple things to note. Earlier this summer, there was a meeting out at the airport with Kevin Kelly of Peaslee Tech and some of his staff trying to work on ideas on how to promote aviation in our high schools and in Douglas County. They have formed a high school aviation club. They've published a list of dates. That club plans to meet monthly, and I posted that calendar to the agenda tonight. One of the things I will need the board's help with is on December 14th, they want to come out to the airport and have kind of a general introduction to aviation session, so I'm going to need some help on what we present to those kids that night. I need to check in with Peaslee Tech to see how many kids are actually signed up to participate in that group. The other thing about that effort is Peaslee has worked with the school district to start some aviation training programs at Peaslee Tech beginning in January as well. So those are all positive signs happening at Peaslee. If you haven't met Kevin Kelly before, he's not one to sit around. He's a real go-getter, and I'm optimistic about promoting aviation training at Peaslee Tech. Maybe the final item, well, let's see, gosh, I got a couple more pages left. We are working on airport replatting, so that's moving forward. KDOT had a contract inspector out at our airport in early September. That report's attached. It was, a good report. No major findings, a couple obstruction issues that I think our staff has already addressed. Maybe the final item is the new KDOT Aviation Director, Ray Seif, has convened a emerging aviation technology working group throughout the state. I think that's, positive. There's a lot of changes happening in aviation, especially with emerging technologies. We're actually going to have a kind of a panel discussion next week at our KA conference on that topic. But I think the fact that this group is convened, it's meeting generally monthly via Zoom, is a good thing. There's a lot of Kansas aviation companies working on advanced air mobility and unmanned aerial systems, and there's a lot of momentum happening in the state of Kansas, and he's also roped in some stakeholders from neighboring states to help on these initiatives. So I think it's an excellent thing to be a part of. And of course, we got some stuff happening at our airport with the University of Kansas is doing federally contracted research on drone technologies as well. So we've got some things to add to this discussion. Like I told Ron earlier, the airport budget and CIP were approved, and I've posted those items as well. I think I'll be quiet now. I'll answer any questions, guys.
Okay, thank you. I just want to remind everybody that you are currently the president of the Kansas Association of Airports, for which we are grateful.
Yay.
Of the time you spend doing that. Okay, the next big project, you guys, up here is we have to figure out a calendar. for 2020, the end of 2024 and the beginning of 2025. And
I think Ron had something for the last item. Ron had something.
oh, Ron, speak.
Yeah, a couple of things. The new airport sign, I think, is fabulous. I was out there. It's been up there for a while. It's really good. I finally saw it at night. It is really, really nice. We've been working on that sign for almost 20 years, and Scott got it done. Good job, Scott. The High School Aviation Club put me down to help you with that, Scott, so reach out to me on that. I've already put that on my calendar for the 14th. There was a planning, I think there was a planning commission approval for some land rezoning out at the airport, some small parcels, Scott. I didn't hear anything about that.
Yeah, I can speak to that if you like.
And then the last question, so that you can just speak to those, hopefully, is the replatting, I hope, is going to be helping get that Dream Aviation status changed, because that's been lingering a long time. And I assume that's part of that.
Yeah, I can speak to the replatting. The idea is to plat the airport into one larger parcel. Right now, the lot lines at the airport really don't match up to the airport master plan or necessarily development proposals that come into the airport. And when we get one of those, like from Dream Air or Eurotech or anybody else, it adds another layer of bureaucracy really to efforts to develop out at the airport, because you got to go through the whole airport the subdivision and replatting process, which is costly and time consuming. So that's the main idea on the replat process, Ron. The planning commission sign that was up at the entrance to Airport Road, I was telling Lloyd about this morning. I was actually involved with property acquisition maybe 10 years ago out at the airport for a couple little parcels that were never annexed or rezoned. So that's what that was. It was really just a technical cleanup from some acquisitions from at least 10 years ago. One of them was a little sliver just to the west of the KU hangar, kind of on that oxbow of ground there. And the other was a sliver, I think, it might have been a runway protection zone area off of 119. So they were just really some cleanup issues that we had never addressed out at the airport.
I actually have a question.
Yeah, Sarah?
I'm just wondering what the glide scope
Oh.
tower is.
It's
Is
a
that-
typo.
Yeah, is it the ILS?
Yeah, that's a typo. It should be glide slope tower.
Good.
Yes, that's an FAA project.
But what is the tower? Is it,
It's the lights.
it's the rabbit? Oh, it's just the lights.
The lights.
The lights that go out, yes, okay,
Yeah,
good.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, calendar. Okay, I have some proposed dates for 2024 and 2025, continuing with the every other month schedule. And I would like to know whether this is going to work for everybody. One way I could do this is to have Scott put out the dates in an email and see if they work for everybody, or I can just give them to you now and you can tell me.
Are they going to go every other month from starting today?
Yeah,
So it'd be October, December, February.
here are the dates.
Why don't you tell us? Yeah, thank you.
December 4th is the one that was already on the schedule for this year. And for 2025, the dates would be February 5th, April 2nd, June 4th, August 6th, October 1st, and December 3rd. Okay?
So it'd be sticking, Clancy, with the first Wednesday of.
First,
every-
basically what we had before, the first Wednesday of every month, every other month. And when Scott, didn't you look at the calendar to see if that was going to work? I think. I didn't.
Oh, I don't know if I asked Christina to look at the commission calendar. I did get an email from Porter O'Neill yesterday from the Cultural Arts Commission, who's apparently they've decided to meet on first Wednesdays of the month, so he was checking in with me on what this board was doing. I told them it was an item for discussion tonight, so
Okay.
there you have it.
What should we do then? I'll take advice.
I would love to.
This is Ron. I'm good with all those dates. I can make all of them except one in person, and I can make the one I can't make in person by Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jim, what would you
I
were
would love to
saying?
move it off a Wednesday because it kills the week of travel for me. But that's a personal thing I
Yeah.
try not to involve in. But if we can move it to the front or back of a week, it would be a lot easier.
Okay.
So I don't know if that helps us finding a room that's available.
That's always the question.
Right.
I don't like Mondays for me.
Me either. I hate Mondays.
That's a song. But I have another meeting every other
Okay,
Monday.
Carrie, does it matter to you?
No, it doesn't
Okay.
matter. I'll be able
Then
to.
we can keep it on Wednesdays. If we can keep the room, I'd say we keep it then because that won't break any process.
Yeah, is there any chance you can zoom in occasionally?
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Jake?
That works for me. I've got one date
Okay.
that I know I'll miss that I could maybe call in, but I'm not sure. So.
Okay.
Yeah, I got one date I know I'll miss too, but
But
will
how about this art commission? Are we gonna,
Well, we'll let them know what we want,
okay.
and then they can decide what they want to do. Madam?
Yeah, I would just say that if this has been the traditional meeting time, and you want to stick with it, go ahead
I think
and
that's
make that motion, and then we'll go ahead and get that scheduled. I know our Connected City meeting, I'm having a hard time finding a spot because we're all under the new ordinances and resolution that was adopted, supposed to meet in here and be televised. So it's making it very difficult for us to figure out how to make all these things
Because
work,
there really isn't another place that you can do that, is there?
not under how it's set up.
Yeah.
I motion we keep the time schedule that Clancy set aloud here.
Okay.
And the public started to expect this
Okay.
meeting on Wednesday, correct?
Okay, do I have a second? Jim made the motion.
I'll second.
I'll second it. This is Ron.
Okay, Ron and Sarah seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anybody
Amber.
opposed? Okay.
Valiant effort.
Okay, and then after the meeting, I would like to get together with you, Carrie, and Scott, and go over some potential dates for our regular in-between meeting dates, just so that we can make sure that we stay up to date on anything that needs to be added to the agenda, or whether we need a special meeting or something, so if that would work for you. Okay, Mr. Hetrick, I believe you're up.
Yeah, Lloyd Hetrick with Hetrick Air Service. As you all know, the football season kind of went east on us. I would say we still have had some traffic, and the one game that was at Sporting KC, I think before this last one, we got quite a little bit of traffic for that one. Of course, that was a Friday evening game, so I don't know if people coming in for the weekend or what, but we got a fair amount there. Then when it moved to the Chiefs, it kind of driddled off a little bit, but we're still seeing some traffic. And of course, traffic is kind of hanging in there as it would anyway. So, we are adding just an FYI, we're going to add a Robinson 44 to our flight school. Start doing helicopter flight instruction here. Right now, just trying to work the details on flight instructors. I wish my fixed wing had helicopters, CFIs, but, so we're just trying to get an CFI added on full-time. Right now, we got some part-time that will do some, so we're excited about that. That was in Kansas City. We had a partnership with another family over there. He moved on, so we brought the helicopter back, and we're gonna do it out of Lawrence just for convenience and help generate a little bit out of Lawrence too, so.
All right.
Any questions?
Questions, anybody? Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, if there's nothing else, I guess we're ready for adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, motion from Jim,
Second.
Carrie seconds. Anybody in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for accommodating.
Thanks, Ron.
I'm really glad we do these meetings that we do by Zoom, because that makes, I know I travel a lot. I know Jim travels a lot.
Thanks.
I think
Well, Ron, we want you here. We want you here.